Hi Stampers, this is Kim with Great Inspirations. I'm glad you're here today. For today, I thought we would take a look at a very simple card layout. It's easy to create, it uses scraps, and it's also very versatile, as we will talk about later on. But I call this layout 3 rectangles. Now you know me, I have to have names for fun folds and layouts so I can, in my head, keep straight which one I'm talking about. So I call this 3 rectangles, and that's basically all it is. 3 rectangles cut to certain sizes and placed on a card base. This is an A2 card base. And then I just added a greeting. And then on the inside, if you like, you can put a panel, and down here I put some more of my paper scraps just to dress it up a little bit. But like I said, this is a good design if you have pieces of scrap pattern paper that you want to use up. However, if you have scraps of cardstock that you would like to use up, there's no reason you couldn't put complementary or even contrasting pieces of cardstock here. Maybe run them through an embossing folder to give it just texture and a little more interest, and there you go. So either way, but the cards that I will be showing you today, I did use pattern paper on. So let's talk about making this. It's very, very simple. You just need 3 separate pieces. Now I chose for each one to be a different design. You can do that. You could use all the same design. You could use maybe this one and this one the same and this one different, or this one and this one the same and this one different. It's totally up to you. I prefer the 3 different ones. I just like the look it gives. And here are the measurements. Now, as always, the measurements for these card pieces and everything else about the cards that I show you today, all the information on that will be found on my corresponding blog post, and there is a link to that blog post in the description of this video. So we start with a piece that's 1.5 inches wide by 5 1/8 inches long. That's this piece right here. And then for the top up here, the top right, 2 1/4 by 1 3/4. And then bottom right, 2 1/4 wide by 3 1/4 inches long. That's all it takes. These 3 pieces of pattern paper, your card base, your inside panel. In this case, mine is, I think this one was 3 3/4 by 5, or you could use 5 1/4 by 4. So you'll need that, your card base, your 3 pieces, and whatever you want for a greeting. I did put a few embellishments on there, but that's up to you whether you do that or not. So let's get out. I have some card pieces here that we can work together to put to make the card, just to show you how fast it goes together. I have a greeting here, hello, and then I've already, here's some adhesive. I've already put the inside panel on here. As you can see, I just put a 1 inch by 3 3/4 inch piece of the scrap pattern paper there. And now I have my 3 pieces of paper, and that's how they go, more or less. Now I know sometimes it gets scary when you just have this big canvas, so to speak, and you want to try to get everything even, and then you're designing or moving them around and get them right where you want them, and then you have to pick one of them up to put adhesive on the back, and things can get jumbled. Well, remember, we have that trick where we can use temporary adhesive or removable adhesive, and just put a little on the back of each of these panels. This one is from Tombow. There's lots of other companies that make it, but another thing you can do is just put your regular snail adhesive on the back, just a teeny tiny bit, and just take your finger over it and keep, you know, taking the sticky off, and that will work too. So just something to hold it in place. Now we're going to line these up. I'm going to start right here. We try to leave a border along the side, top and bottom, that is equal. And then we're going to line this up and try to, we can get the top lined up right with where the top of this piece is. Try to leave an even border here and on the other side. And now the last piece is really easy to line up because we can line it up right under this piece and line it up with the bottom of this piece. So there we go. Now, because that is temporary adhesive, it will, you know, we'll be able to lift that up. And now we're just going to use a little bit more permanent adhesive. And I'm going to start with this one. Just lift it right up off of there and see, it's just fine. And we'll get some adhesive on the back of this. And we'll line it up. Line it up with the top and the bottom. Just a little piece of, I guess that was just a little bit of pattern paper there. Okay, now we will do our top piece. Just put some permanent adhesive on it. We just line it up even with this at the top and then line it up above this piece right here. There we go. And now we'll put adhesive on the back of this. Line it up with the bottom right underneath this piece. There we go. That's just how fast and easy that is. And I do, of course, have this greeting. It says hello. Now, this greeting, you could have matted it with a color of cardstock that's in the paper, but I decided to just leave it white. And I think I'll just put it right here, sort of in the center. And there's our card. Hello. And then inside, there's plenty of room to write a message and sign your name. So here it is, our 3 rectangles card layout. Quick and easy and uses scraps. Plus, I told you it was versatile. So let's look at some other things we can do. Of course, the very first thing we can do is take it from being portrait oriented card to being a landscape. And here this is. But you can see I put it more like this. I've got the long strip at the bottom, but then I've also flipped where these two go. So the longer pieces here and the shorter one here. But that is definitely an option. You can just move those around wherever you like them, portrait orientation or landscape orientation. And then here's my Christmas version. And I put the longer strip here on the right. And the reason I did that is because the Santas were sort of facing left. And I've got Sending Holiday Cheer, and I thought it would look really odd with the Santas over here to the left, looking to the left, looking away from the greeting. So I just thought it looked better to put it up here. And I liked having the smaller piece at the bottom as opposed to the top. And just having this down here, I thought that looked nice. It's not the same paper as this. It's an entirely different paper pack, but it matched well enough that it just looked like a continuation of this to a point anyway. So there are some options. And then another thing you can do, because of the sizes, you can take a mat that is just a regular first mat that is 5 1/4 by 4, put it on your card base, and then just line up your pieces just like we did for all of the cards. So you have a continuous mat under your pieces. Everything, all these measurements remain exactly the same. You just add this mat that is 4 by 5¼ inches. And then another thing you can do is you can add individual mats under the cardstock strips and scraps. And how I did that, the white mats are cut the size of the pattern paper pieces were cut. And then I reduced the size of the scraps. And I have those measurements listed on my corresponding blog post, but I'll give you an example. For instance, this mat, this white mat right here, is the 1½ by 5 1/8, just like this strip was. So then that made the strip 1 3/8 wide by 5 inches long. We did the same for this. The white mat is 2 1/4 by 1 3/4. The pattern paper is 2 1/8 by 1 5/8. Same for down here. The white mat is 2 1/4 by 3 1/4. And then the pattern paper is cut at 2 1/8 by 3 1/8. So that's another option you have. And there you can play around and cut these different sizes. You can make them even thinner if you like and put a larger mat. It's totally up to you. You don't need a mat if you don't want it. But if you want just the one mat, you can do that. You can arrange your pieces in whatever configurement you care to arrange them. And there you go. You could make several different looks from this one card layout. And that's what I like. I like when we can have layouts that give us lots of options. So I hope you have enjoyed this little look at this simple card layout. And I hope you're having a good July. Can you believe it's already July? I will talk to you next week. Until next time, stamp happy.